Hello Toy Collector fans, Universal Toy Collector here and welcome to the channel. And welcome to another episode of My Collecting Life, the series where I get to speak with you, members of the toy collecting community, about your own personal collections, finding out what got you into collecting in the first place and what gives you that toy collecting buzz. Okay then, so who is the guest on this week's episode? Well, why don't we find out? You all know the drill by now. Sit yourselves down, make yourselves comfortable, and let's take a look at some of his collection in a musical montage. Wow, what an absolute fantastic collection and lots of variety within that collection too. It is a pleasure to welcome to the channel for the first time, Phil from Treasures for Trigger. Hello, sir. Welcome to the channel. Thank you very much for joining me.
G'day, Stu. Good to see you, mate. Thanks for inviting me on. Looking forward to having a chat. It's early in the morning in Japan, but I've had my coffee and ready to have a good yarn with you. So thanks for inviting me on.
No. It's an absolute pleasure to have you on and get to speak to you for the first time. So you were saying that you roughly know a little bit about the series. Yep. I've got 10 questions for you, all about you and your collection. Awesome. And so when you're ready, we'll crack on with the first one.
Brilliant. Yeah, let's get into it.
Cool. What toy lines were you into as a kid, and what memories do you have of those toy lines?
Well, the first toy line that I remember having in terms of action figures were Masters of the Universe, He-Man. So
Okay, yeah.
I was born in 1980, so I guess when Masters of the Universe came out, sort of 82 or 83, I would have got my first He-Man figures when I was about 4 or 5 years old.
Okay, wow.
I've got a distinct memory of getting Triclops actually as my very first action figure, possibly for a birthday present or something like that. So Masters of the Universe, definitely my first love. But yeah, obviously throughout the 80s, so many amazing toy lines. So I went through Masters of the Universe, G.I. Joe, Transformers as well, obviously.
Okay,
so the big three. I was also a big fan of the golden era of WWF wrestling. So
the
LJN wrestling figures were a big thing in our household as well, with me and my younger brother. And then moving slightly later on, the Ninja Turtles as well. So the Ninja Turtles were probably the last toy line that I was really into as a kid, because I was sort of getting towards sort of 10 and 11 years old. So sort of that time span, with a few other random things thrown in as well. I was a fan of Dino Riders, which was a very
I remember those.
Short line, sort of in the late 80s, and I was a big dinosaur kid. So when the Dino Riders came out, I was fully into those as well. So I sort of dabbled in all sorts of things. There's so much great things in the 80s,
it was definitely a golden era, definitely for toys. I'm really interested about the wrestling, because as a kid I could never get into wrestling, and I didn't even realize they did wrestling figures. So what was the appeal to you about wrestling back in the day? Did you actually watch it on the TV?
I did watch it, and it was very big in New Zealand. It was it was all the talk in the playground. And one of the appeals for me and my younger brother actually was that my parents were quite strict with us. They didn't actually allow us to watch it on TV,
right?
Because of the violence, and although it's not real, obviously, it's all made up.
Is it not?
So my parents were both school teachers, so they saw a lot of fighting and wrestling in the playground. So they were reluctant for me and my younger brother to watch it. So obviously, them not allowing us to watch it made us want to watch it even more. So we would go over to our friends' places in the weekends and watch it over at their place. We just absolutely loved it. It was so colourful and so many different crazy characters. And they had the LJN toy line. Were these figures which were they're quite big, sort of a 6-inch figure, solid sort of rubber, no articulation at all, and you could just really go to town with them in terms of banging them around, and they were just great fun. And probably in terms of all of the toy lines that I played with as a kid, the wrestling figures tended to be the ones that we used the longest, because they were very durable, and wrestling was just popular for such a long period of time. When I was growing up, there was actually a New Zealand tag team as well, the Bushwhackers. So that had an extra sort of an appeal for New Zealand viewers too. So it was definitely big in the neighborhood that I was growing up in anyway.
I mean, because I see the English wrestling, I just couldn't really get into it, because we had people like Giant Haystacks, Big Daddy, but from what I can remember, those were the only big two names that we had in UK wrestling. I didn't even realize you had like stuff like WWE in America. I didn't realize you had like the wrestling in New Zealand. So I wasn't aware of many of the big names at all within wrestling. So I guess it was just one of those things that I didn't quite get into. And to me, I couldn't see the appeal of seeing. I mean, Big Daddy was fairly getting on in years, and I think Giant Haystacks was too, and they were quite big guys as well. And I didn't see the appeal when seeing big men rolling around in leotards and stuff like that. So that wasn't quite my cup of tea. But I guess it was different for New Zealand, and I know they've got like some big characters in America, but I didn't realise they had some big names in New Zealand as well.
Yeah, it was quite a big story when the New Zealand team sort of entered. It was like putting New Zealand on the world stage type of thing. So
Okay.
yeah, it was pretty big news. But obviously characters like Hulk Hogan, the Ultimate Warrior, they were sort of household names back in the day. And I guess when the wrestling came out, I was sort of 7 or 8 years old. So again, just all of the color and the pantomime and the drama. It was just storytelling, basically. I think the sub stories of the rivalries was actually more entertaining than the actual wrestling in the ring itself. So it was just good fun. So yeah.
Talking of color, I can see the appeal of the Masters of the Universe line. What was it that got you hooked into that?
I think for Masters of the Universe, it probably was the cartoon. Initially, that was seemed to be on TV most days after school or in the afternoon. So I think that's the thing that really drew me into Masters of the Universe initially. And the Filmation series was a little bit wacky. Skeletor was a bit of a fool. It was quite humorous, and I just love the sword and sorcery aspect of Masters of the Universe. I've sort of always been more into sort of the fantasy stuff. So that all appealed to me, and as you say, a very colorful line, and the toys obviously being, at that age, sort of larger than life, bulging with muscles and. I just thought they were fantastic. I fell in love with Skeletor initially. I just thought his character, and the colors that he had on his, the purples and the blues of his figure just really, really stood out. And I was just really drawn to Masters of the Universe. So
I mean, I like a lot of the figures. Some of the figures I wasn't too keen on. Like I think in the later years, but I think the earlier waves with Beastman, Merman, Triclops, Trapjaw. Evelyn, those kind of figures. I just think they're absolutely superb. And I've said the box art on those figures and vehicles, I think, has definitely got to be some of the best box art going. I mean, was that an appeal to you when you first saw that in the stores over in New Zealand?
I think so. Yeah. Again, I remember the card. The sort of the red, the card back of the figures that sort of imprinted in my mind, and seeing those card backs sort of really takes me back to Christmas mornings and opening up Masters of the Universe under the tree and that kind of thing. I didn't have many of the vehicles actually. My parents were, I guess, sort of working class, and I think they were mortgaged up to their eyeballs, so they never really could afford some of the bigger play sets or the vehicles. We mainly had the individual figures, but I mean, you're right, the artwork is absolutely spectacular, and quite different obviously from the cartoon series. The artwork on the toy line is much more sort of hardcore and
absolutely definitely
sort of aimed at maybe an older age bracket perhaps, but I fell in love with all of it. It was fantastic. And you're right, you're right. The first couple of waves with those figures were just absolute classics. I think it died. I think maybe by wave 4 or wave 5, I think they'd sort of started to run out of ideas a bit. And
crikey, I mean, I didn't even realize they got that far.
Yeah, I think they went up to wave 7 with Masters of the Universe, but
wow.
Yeah, I sort of transitioned, I think, from Masters of the Universe to maybe G.I. Joe or Transformers, I think, I think as a kid, after about 3 years of a particular toy line, I kind of lost interest and wanted to try something different. So
what was it that got you into G.I. Joe then? What was the appeal with that? I mean, what wave were you, or not what wave were you? What wave was out at the time when you got into G.I. Joe?
Yeah, that was I've heard stories actually. I'm a member of a sort of a New Zealand G.I. Joe Facebook group, and a few people tell stories on that. And apparently G.I. Joe didn't actually come into the New Zealand market until about 85 or 86. And I think the initial Real American Hero release started in '82, so we didn't. New Zealand didn't get the first few waves of GI Joe actually. So it would have been about '85 or '86. And again, for me as a kid, it was the cartoons that really got me into the toy line. So GI Joe, the Sunbow series, was another cartoon that was on the TV fairly regularly, and just in my neighborhood, on the street that we lived in. Actually, I'm from the same hometown as Peter from the PGM show.
Wow.
A smallish city there by chance.
Oh, wow.
So we had a lot of friends on our street of similar age, and they were all into GI Joe as well. And I just remember, grabbing a few GI Joes. They were so small, sticking them in your pocket, and then running over to your neighbor's place and playing with them outside. And you could take them anywhere. And again, it was just something that was popular with neighborhood kids. So once your friends got into something, you invariably joined them and got into it as well. So I wasn't so much into the military aspect of GI Joe. Like I don't have any family members that were ever military people or in the army or anything like that. But again, with GI Joe, they sort of started to incorporate some kind of more sci-fi elements. With Cobra and some of the figures like Croc Master and Hydro Viper. You can sort of see elements of sort of more sci-fi with GI Joe as well, and that's the sort of thing that really appealed to me more than the soldiers. So
I was going to say it was reversed for me, because from 1982 and I think up until it was like 1986, 87. Before it started getting all sci-fi, I really enjoyed the line, and there were some great vehicles coming out. And I think for me, it was the realism of like the vehicles and the costumes they were wearing and the weapons. Yeah. And then it started going into all these. I think they were Eco Warriors or Eco Vipers or whatever. The really bright colours and the crazy outlandish sort of vehicles and stuff. And I'm just like, okay, so maybe wasn't. I kind of like switched off from GI Joe by that age. But again, with Masters of the Universe and GI Joe, there've been lots of different like cartoons and figures of those modern day figures. You've got Origins come out now. You've got the Revelations figures for Masters of the Universe. Yeah. Are you all for these new kinds of figures, these modern day figures and cartoons, or do you think it should be sort of like left as it is and like an original? Are you an original kind of guy?
Yeah, well, I'm mainly a vintage toy collector. That's where I started. I'm a relatively new collector. I only started collecting about 3 years ago when the lockdown started here in Japan, and I was kind of stuck at home, twiddling my thumbs and looking for things to do, and I sort of stumbled across action figure collecting. So probably with most people, that's where I started with with vintage figures. Sorry, and initially I thought I'm not going to go down the rabbit hole of modern figures and that kind of thing. But invariably, from following YouTube channels and meeting people in the community, I have become more interested in the modern stuff. So I have dabbled in the GI Joe classified series. I've got a handful of figures in that line. They're really cool. They're again, I like the figures which remind me of some of the original figures that I had as a child. So I'm by no means a completionist. I don't need everything. I pick the figures that bring back those memories for me, basically, that give me a bit of nostalgia. And then the Origins as well is another modern line that's been a great one as well. Again, I just try and look for the figures which maybe are difficult to get vintage wise, like some of the vintage figures like Scareglow, Faker, Sorceress. They're really difficult to find vintage, and they're very expensive as well. So I find that Origins is a good way to sort of fill in gaps in the collection when I can come across them. Unfortunately for me, being in Japan, Western line figures are actually really difficult to come by. So things like you can't find GI Joe Classified in the shops at all. You can't find Motu Origins in the shops. So yeah, and occasionally you come across them on the used market on the websites which sell used goods. So yeah, when I'm lucky, I managed to find a couple online, and I've been lucky joining this YouTube community. I guess I've met some friends, and they've actually helped me out. I've had some
cool
people who have sent me some stuff over from America and Australia. So yeah, that's just been a really nice thing as well. So not a massive modern toy collector, but I am definitely I do like them. It's just it's a matter of space.
You prefer vintage? Yeah,
I prefer vintage definitely wins for me, just for the nostalgic reasons. And
yeah. Awesome. What was your favorite toy line and why? Now, you said your first love was Motu. Is that still the case, or when you sort of like got bored of Motu and you went on something else, did your favorites change as you got older, or are you still like a big Motu fan?
I am still a big Motu fan, and I guess I'm sentimental because it was my first toy line. I still that's sort of really, I'm still passionate about Motu, and I've started with a couple of other guys on YouTube. We've started a semi-regular series on Tuesday nights called Mo Tuesdays, where we discuss
I've seen some of those.
We discuss all things Motu. So that's been really cool to sink my teeth into. So in terms of a franchise, Motu is probably number one. But in terms of actual toys themselves, I would actually say my favorite toy line are the Dino Riders. I just think the detail and the sculpting of those dinosaurs is absolutely beautiful. And they are really difficult to find. I think maybe that element of it as well, the fact that they are, it is a challenge to hunt for them, really appeals to me as well. So I would say I've got a relatively healthy Dino Riders collection, and I just think they're beautiful looking figures. Unfortunately, the armor and stuff is very brittle, so it's very easy to break certain parts of the figures. Unfortunately, they didn't make them very robust, but one thing that I've been really surprised to discover in Japan is that they also released Dino Riders in Japan as well. So they were made by Taiko, which is a Japanese was a Japanese toy manufacturer, and so they released them. I've actually got a box here actually. They released them. It's a bit of a rough box, but they released them in Japan, and so the box art is very different from the Western release. So you got the
that was pretty cool, didn't it? Look at that. Wow.
Yeah. So
awesome stuff.
Yeah, that's been a really really cool discovery for me, finding out that they released them in Japan. So I've been trying to get a few more of those. So in terms of a franchise, Motu would be my number one, but in terms of just purely the toys, Dino Riders. Unfortunately with Dino Riders, they did have a cartoon series as well, and
I remember that as a kid.
Yeah, it was very short-lived though. I think it may have only been one series, and I just don't think they have the character development, with the characters as much. It's difficult to develop the characters if they're dinosaurs, I guess.
When was Dino Riders out? What year did you say it was?
I think that was 87 or 88. So late-ish 80s.
I'm just trying to think what other toy lines were around at that time that they were competing against, because you had some big hitters back in the day, didn't you? Especially in the 80s. So if you're trying to compete with those, it needs to be something pretty special, doesn't it?
That's the one. Yeah, that's the one. I think that would have sort of been peak, I don't know, G.I. Joe time, and then probably the Ninja Turtles were just starting to hit the scene as well. So that's the problem with a lot of the 80s lines, right? Just much competition, and there are lines like Thundercats and those sorts of things. I never got into Thundercats as a kid because I just there was just so much other things going on that you couldn't get everything. So
Well, that's it. I mean, I remember. Oh, sorry, I was going to say I remember watching the cartoon of Thundercats, but again, it wasn't a line that I've got into and I've not dipped my toe into at this moment. I mean, have you got any Thundercats now, or
I've got
2 or 3
figures. My younger brother was more of a Thundercats kid than I was, so I do remember him having a couple of figures. So I do have Lion-O and I can't even remember the characters' names actually, but I've got a couple and they kind of remind me of my brother playing with them a bit. So it is a I guess the classic 80s toy line, but not something that I have as much of a connection with. So it was a great decade, wasn't it?
Absolutely. I mean, it's just there. I mean, you could just write a list of all the decent stuff that was out. Whether it's cartoon or toy lines and stuff like that, and and then like it coming to the 90s with the Turtles. I mean, that was late 80s, wasn't it? And then early 90s. That wasn't a line that I got into. But for me, I think that the Turtles was probably the last big toy line of around that time. I can't remember anything else that sort of came after Turtles, if I'm honest, toy line wise.
Yeah, no, you're right. I think, So as I said before, I was kind of sort of maybe 10 or 11 when the Turtles were really big, and they were everywhere. They were they were in the supermarkets, on the food, on the cereal boxes and on the pizza boxes.
That's it.
You couldn't escape them. So it was just in New Zealand, it was exactly the same. It was just turtle mania everywhere, and I think that after that, I don't think anything else could really reach those heights of the Ninja Turtles. So
saying that, when was Power Rangers? Because again, that was another big one. I can't remember what time that was. So was that around the same time as the Turtles, or was that just after?
That's a good shout. Yeah, I think that probably was roughly the same time, maybe slightly later than that. But I think for me, again, my younger brother, I remember he would watch the Power Rangers on TV. But for me, I would have been about maybe 12 or 13 when the Power Rangers came out. And as a kid, I don't know about you, but when I got to that age, I I don't know, it felt like I woke up one morning and I was just over playing with my toys, and I moved on to video gaming.
You should say that. You should say that, because that's going to lead into the next question.
Okay.
I was going to ask you, when did you stop playing with your toys, and then when did you become a collector?
Okay. That's a good segue. I'd say I would have stopped well, I don't know if I'd call myself a collector as a kid, but in terms of playing with toys and buying them and my parents buying them for me, I would say it would have been around about 11 or 12 years old, would have been when I finished. And one of the big things that happened was that my parents, we moved houses quite a bit as a kid, and when I was about 10 or 11, we actually moved cities. We moved further south in the South Island, and it was quite a big move. And basically my parents were like, look, you guys have got to get rid of a lot of your crap, basically. So we had the big garage sale, basically, and unfortunately all of my childhood toys were victims of that garage sale, and they probably got sold for a penny, I'd imagine. I think the only figures that I kind of still held on to were the wrestling figures, because I was still watching it on TV. And but the Masters of the Universe, the G.I. Joes, the Transformers, they didn't come with us on the move. We just didn't have the space to do it. And I think at that point, that's when I kind of decided, right, that's probably the end of the toy phase for me. And of course, at that time as well, in the early 90s, you had the gaming systems were massive.
That's it.
Mega drives, or do you call it? Was it the Mega Drive or the Genesis in the UK?
I think we had the Mega Drive.
The Mega Drive, the same.
Sega Mega Drive,
Yeah, that's the one. Yeah, so that and PlayStations and Amiga 5. So for me and my brother, again, gaming, playing computer games definitely took over playing with toys. So when our toys were sold off, I didn't feel upset, or I didn't shed any tears. I just thought, at the time, I thought, well, I'm sort of I'm past this phase now anyway, and it's now I think, oh my god, I wish I'd obviously kept all those things. And
I think you and every other adult.
Exactly, mate. Yeah. So yeah, and then to be perfectly honest, as I said before, it wasn't until about 3 years ago that I started collecting. So right
Wow.
from 12 years of age through to I'm 43 now, so it would have been about
Wow, it's a long time.
just hit 40, where
Jeez.
as I said, I was in lockdown over here, and I was just
Yeah.
suddenly struck with this urge to get a little bit of nostalgia, and I don't know, something to connect with back home, I think, and
Yeah.
I just got curious, and I actually the first thing I started looking for online were CDs. I wanted to buy CDs that I had growing up, and I started looking online at used CDs, and actually one of the websites that I was looking at had randomly a couple of the Transformers popped up, and I was like, oh, geez, that brings back memories, and yeah, that sort of triggered my interest, and I've never looked back since. So it was a big gap, and it's not something that I ever thought about, actually. I don't know. I never thought toy collecting was a hobby, or I never realized it was something that people did until 3 or 4 years ago when I started doing it, and then I got onto the YouTube sort of YouTube video making area and meeting YouTubers, and I thought, holy cow, that like this is a massive interest,
it's crazy, isn't it?
Thousands of people that do it, and such an awesome community. So I went into it completely blind. I had no idea the size of the community, how many people do it, the size of collections that people have, and it's just been such an amazing thing to discover, especially over here, because living in Japan, it's a great country, but it's a very foreign country. It's a different culture, it's a different language, and for me, the toy collecting has been something for me to reconnect with people, like-minded people, and it's I've made so many great friends. I never thought starting to collect toys that I would make friendships and things like that, so that's just been all an added bonus as well.
It's certainly an eye-opener. That's certainly an eye-opener. I mean, I'm definitely in the same boat. I mean, I was always I've kind of always had a love for like collecting and stuff like that, and I've been collecting now for since I met my wife, so that was about 12 years ago, about 11 years ago. And I always kind of like a private kind of person, and I didn't want to tell anybody, I didn't want to let anybody see the collection or anything like that. It was just my own little getaway, so to speak. And then like you said, 2020 come along, and we were jumping onto YouTube, and I just I was looking for figure reviews and stuff like that, and I just come across so many amazing people, and here we are now. It's just crazy how it sort of develops, doesn't it, and how it escalates, and your collection gets bigger. And I mean, we'll stick on this subject. So was that the reason then for you doing a YouTube channel?
It was, and I've told the story a couple of times. It was actually all my wife's idea. So yeah, we were in the lockdown, and I started buying the figures, and I got a little bit out of control. I think I was trying to make up for lost time, and I was buying so much in a very short period of time. Like the first year, I probably spent thousands of dollars building up my collection very, very quickly, and my wife could see the joy that it was bringing me, and she said, look, this is great, but she's not interested in it. Obviously, she doesn't really get it, which is understandable. So she was like, it's great, but why don't you share this experience with other people? And as I said, we were in lockdown at the time, so in Japan, and we weren't getting out very much, and it was her suggestion. She's like, why don't you set up a YouTube channel, and when you get a delivery, unbox it in front of camera, and show people what you're getting over here in Japan. And at first, I'm a pretty shy person, and I'm at first I thought, oh God, I don't want to be in front of the camera doing this. That's a stupid idea. But she kept pushing me to do it, and eventually I was like, okay, I'll get her off my back, and I'll do a couple of videos. So started doing it, and yeah, I really started to enjoy doing it, and it just gave me another layer of, not just collecting the toys, but being able to share with people, and again, just being part of a community has added just so much more to the hobby. So I guess I can't say I blame my wife, but that's it. It was her initial idea, and I've stuck with. She thought I probably wouldn't stick with it very long, but I've stuck with it now for a couple of years. I think I started my channel sort of mid 2021, I think, when I started. So it's still going.
Awesome stuff.
I'm still enjoying it. So it's all her idea.
time consuming, isn't it?
It is time consuming. You're right. And funnily enough, I used to have a lot more time to do it. But last year we moved cities, and now I'm working in Tokyo. We live about 1 hour outside of Tokyo, and I commute into Tokyo every day. So there's a lot of commuting time, and the amount of free time I have has definitely dwindled. So at one point I was putting out a video sort of on a weekly basis, but now I'm kind of struggling to do that, and it's probably more sort of every 3 or 4 weeks now that I'm getting a video out. So but the things like the live stream, I've been on a few live streams, and doing interviews with yourself, that's all good. That's sort of getting my name out there as well. And
absolutely,
it's just a great way to meet. And I don't care really about subscriber numbers or anything like that, but just being able to talk with people and enjoy talking about the things that we love is it's
definitely
just fantastic. So
I mean, it's like, I echo those thoughts. It's like I didn't realize that there were so many people out there that were interested in doing the same things. And I mean, some people I've seen their collections, absolutely fantastic collection, and the knowledge of some of the people that I've spoken to and that are out there, just incredible. And now I know, I like toys and stuff like that. I don't know everything about toys. I've never, claimed that I do, but to learn things and to hear different people talking and see what they've got and how they display their collection and the knowledge they've got, it's incredible. And like you say, you meet so many cool people and you make so many great friends and stuff like that. And I think that it is a fantastic community for sure. Absolutely. What toy lines do you currently collect?
Currently,
yeah.
What don't I collect? I'm still collecting all of the big ones, basically. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles is a big one. That's quite a popular line in Japan. So there are a lot of Ninja Turtle figures over here. So that's been a good one for me to get into. So that's a big line. So I'm still trying to build up that line. What else am I collecting at the moment? G.I. Joe, Dino Riders. Most of the lines that I talked about earlier. The one that I've gone into most recently is I know this is probably your favorite line, is the Star Wars, the vintage Kenner Star Wars.
I was going to say, it's taken just over half an hour to mention Star Wars for the first time in this conversation. And I was thinking that you're going to be the first person to go through a chat and not mention it. So, but I like Star Wars,
so Star Wars, again, obviously really popular in Japan. Surprisingly expensive, though. There are obviously a lot of hardcore collectors here. The loose figures without accessories are reasonable, but if you want to get complete figures and stuff, you do pay quite hefty prices. But the Star Wars are great figures. I've got 2 older brothers that they're a little bit older than me, sort of 10 and 15 years older than me, and again, as a really youngin', like 2 or 3 years of age, I do remember my older brothers having Star Wars figures. So I have that kind of connection with them. I didn't have them myself as a kid. I think I just missed that. But definitely Star Wars was big in my household with my older brothers. So that's been really fun, starting to collect the Star Wars figures. And Japan has, a few interesting. Takara Tomy actually brings out different.
Oh wow, okay,
Slightly
yeah.
different Star Wars figures. So here's a stormtrooper. I think this is probably
Wow.
I don't know 2 to 3 inches. It's quite small, but it's metallic. It's made out of metal, and
Oh okay. Oh wow.
there's a little bit of articulation in the arms.
Yeah.
But yeah, really tidy looking figures. So I've picked up a few of these.
Yeah.
They're called meta collection figures.
Oh okay.
So you do come across, I guess, things over here in Japan which are maybe slightly different as well, made by some of the Japanese companies, which is quite fun to see. So yeah, Star Wars Kenner and also some of the Japanese release stuff are things which probably I've only got into Star Wars maybe in the last 12 months or so.
Okay.
But yeah, it's been fun building up that collection slowly. I don't have any of the vehicles or play sets again. It's just purely the figures, but
so it's just the vintage Kenner figures that you're after, yeah?
Pretty much, yeah. I've got the Power of the Force. I've got a few carded figures of those. They're pretty cheap over here. You can pick those up for sometimes $3 or $4. So I've picked up a couple of those. This is actually in the vintage. The
oh wow, yeah. The
Royal Guard is my favorite.
Yeah.
In the vintage line, anyway. The Royal Guard's my favorite figure. I just love the soft goods on it, and it really color really pops on the shelf. So I've got a couple of the Royal Guard vintage, but I've got all of the main characters. Again, I'm not looking to complete the line. I think I just collect so many different lines. I don't think I'm ever going to complete one particular line.
I mean, any collector's worst nightmare is space, isn't it? So, I mean, I guess you've got space to take into consideration, then financial situation as well. So, it is impossible to get everything. So,
yeah. But I don't know if in Japan, I think 2025 they're going to have a big Star Wars convention or
Star Wars Celebration's heading over
Star Wars Celebration, yeah. So I had no idea about this. I heard Usual Mike talking about it on one of his videos, I think, and I was like, oh, it's going to be in Japan. So that would be something quite cool to go to.
Yeah, well, I think it'd be the first time it's been over there, isn't it?
Yeah, so I don't know much about it, to be honest. Like I do love Star Wars, but it's definitely not my number one passion. But I understand it's usually held in Europe, is it? Or
well, no, I mean it has been held in Europe. The last couple of times it was in Europe. It was 2016, which was London, and then again this year, which was in London. Predominantly, it's in the US, whether it be San Diego or Orlando or wherever else. But it's just a massive get together of Star Wars. I mean, they do massive reveals. They do different. Like reveal toy lines, whether they reveal different series and stuff like that they're coming up with, and it's just a massive convention about Star Wars. You've got all the cosplayers and stuff like that. So it's I think a lot of people expect it to be back in Orlando again. So I think that's what people were kind of like hoping for, that it'd be back in Orlando in 2025, and then it was like Japan. So, but listen, I mean, every country's entitled to have it in there, So
well, I mean, I've heard a couple of YouTubers saying, they'd be keen to come over and check out Japan and check it out in 2025.
Yeah, but I mean, well, why not? Why not?
Yeah, that would be bloody awesome. It'd be great for people to come over here, and I'd love to be able to meet YouTubers and Star Wars enthusiasts over here. So welcome. Matt's always out, and I've got a lot of friends that recently went over to the Joe Fest over in the States. That looked like that was an awesome get together with people from all over the place. So if there could be something like that over here in Japan, I'd be super stoked to see people over here. So
that would be cool. I mean, I think it might be a little bit out of our. I mean, Mikey. I mean, I've already said to Shabby, I've got to stop like buying toys and stuff like that, so I can save the pennies to go over, because we were looking at going back over to the States in 2025. So
Okay.
you know, it's yeah, it's all about the money, isn't it? But never mind. Do you have a sentimental piece in your collection or a most prized piece in your collection?
Oh man, that's a really good question. I think, to be honest, that's such a good question. To be honest, I think my most prized piece would be, again, it's a Dino Riders piece. It's
Okay.
the Diplodocus. It's quite a large, one of the larger dinosaurs. Again, I was able to pick it up in Japan, complete, with all the accessories and weapons. It came boxed, so it's all there. It's got all the paperwork, and I got it for a relatively reasonable price. So that's something which I just remember being super stoked when I got that, and it does look fantastic on the shelf as well. So the good thing about those sort of boxed figures is that you can, with the flap as well, it looks great displayed in box, and then you can also display it out of box on the shelf too. So I'm really happy to get that. And as I say, Dino Riders are not easy to come by, and I know I've looked actually in New Zealand on New Zealand sites, and they never come up in New Zealand, Dino Riders figures. And I think Dino Riders maybe are more commonly available in sort of I've been on eBay, and they seem to appear a lot from German sellers. They seem to be a lot in Europe. But again, for me, by the time I pay for international postage and stuff like that, it starts to get fairly pricey for me.
That's the problem, isn't it? Yeah, definitely, especially going to Japan. The one you have, is it complete?
It's complete, yeah. It's a complete one. So the only thing that doesn't, it's a couple of the bigger figures like the Tyrannosaurus Rex as well. They're motorized, so you put batteries in them and they actually walk.
Oh, okay.
Which is quite cool. But yeah, actually the Diplodocus doesn't walk. The batteries, I guess I've seen better days. The battery case is all sort of eroded away.
Oh, okay.
So, I've looked into seeing how I can sort of clean that up and maybe getting it going again, but to no avail. In terms of sentimental pieces, I guess a couple of the Motu figures I've got are fairly sentimental, again, because they were some of the first figures I had. So the Triclops figure that I've got, and Webstore is that was always my favorite. Actually, my favorite figure when I was a kid. I just loved his really dark colors and really sort of cool. I was more into the evil warriors more than the heroic warriors. I like the baddies more for some reason.
I don't know. They looked really cool, didn't they?
Yeah. I think just the colors and So he was my favorite as a kid, and maybe a month or two back, I managed to pick up a Webstore again complete. He's quite hard to get complete because he's got like the grappling hook. He's got like the pulley feature where he goes up the pulley line. So he's sometimes hard to get complete. So I managed to find him over here complete as well. So I've got good memories of Webstore as a young'un.
Awesome. What about a Grail piece? Is there a piece that you would like in your collection that you do not have, and if you see it, you think, I don't mind spending that much money on getting that piece for my collection?
Grail pieces. Dino Riders again. The Tyrannosaurus, the T-Rex, which is the main figure. I'm still kicking myself to this day. About 6 months ago, a complete T-Rex, a box T-Rex came up unopened on one of the websites, and they were asking about $600 or $700 for it. And at the time, I was like, "Oh, this is probably quite a reasonable price for it." And I hummed and hawed about it for a couple of days. And at that kind of price, you kind of got to run it by the wife too. At that, when you're spending it, would you mind? You do some. I do anyway.
I know.
I thought I better run this by the wife, and so I talked to her, and she's like, if you really want it, go for it. But by that point, I'd sort of thought about it for a couple of days. I went back, and it was gone burgers. So yeah, the fish got away. So that's something which, man, I wouldn't say I lose sleep over it, but I am kicking myself not picking that up. And
what are the chances of you finding that again then at that price, or do you?
At that price, perhaps, but the one that they were advertising, like the box, looked like it was in mint condition. It was still sealed. So the only thing that I'm sort of telling myself is that if I'd bought it, I don't think I would have had the balls to open it up anyway and display it. I would have kept it in the box. So in terms of play value, I would have had it just because, it's something that I want in my collection. But to be honest, if it was an open box and something that I could take out and actually display on the shelf, that would probably give me more joy, actually, if I could actually see it displayed with all of the other figures. So obviously it wouldn't be worth as much, but yeah, if I can find that it maybe at a slightly cheaper price, I'd be pretty happy. But maybe again with Japan, the apartments are fairly small over here, so getting things like even Castle Grayskulls, I guess it's a fairly common play set. It's not really a Grail piece, but I would love to have a vintage Castle Grayskull. But again, just the space for that is a bit tricky, and who knows? I don't know if I'm going to be in Japan for the rest of my life or not. At some point, I may move back home, and often what crosses my mind is how the hell am I going to get all this stuff back home with me? So
well, that's it.
It's sometimes in the back. That's sometimes in the back of my mind too. So yeah, some of the larger play sets, some of the G.I. Joe vehicles, I would love to get like a Night Raven.
Jet,
a Cobra jet, and the Tomahawk helicopter for G.I. Joe. I've got a lot of nostalgia for those vehicles. Not that I had them as a kid, but my neighbors had some of those vehicles, and
pretty cool.
I think having vehicles with G.I. Joe is just a must, because it's the 3 3/4 inch. It's world building, and the vehicles just complete G.I. Joe. So at some point, when I feel like I've settled down somewhere, getting vehicles and larger play sets is definitely my next lot of goals.
So you won't be back in the the HasLab project then, the Dragonfly.
No. That's
likewise.
That's a bit out of my. I actually, funny you should say that. I am lucky enough to have the Dragonfly, the Japanese release of the Dragonfly. So
cool.
Takara actually released a limited line of G.I. Joe back in the day as well. So I managed. That's one vehicle that I have in box over here. So that's actually, that would be another centerpiece in my collection, I think, if I'm thinking carefully about it. So
if you if you could only collect one toy line, what would it be and why?
Oh, that's a mean question.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Just kidding. I just love to dabble in so many different things. One toy line. You know what? I think I've talked about Dino Riders a lot, but in terms of nostalgic and bringing back childhood memories, and thinking about Christmas mornings with my family, playing with my friends in the neighborhood, watching the TV, it would have to be Masters of the Universe for me. Awesome. That toy line, I think, I think collecting toys for me, the big thing for me is the nostalgia. It's the childhood memories. So in terms of which toy line brings back the most childhood memories for me, it would be Motu. Again, maybe it's just I'm romanticizing about it. It's the first love. It's the first figures that we have, and they look great on a shelf. They're very colorful. They're a good size. The only thing that I hate about the Masters of the Universe figures is that they are a nightmare to keep standing. I don't have the figure stand, so
You don't have the figure stands, okay?
no. Actually, I saw one of your videos recently where you got
Yes.
a wee parcel from a buddy, I think, and you got some of the figure
Yeah.
stands. So
Yeah,
I saw that.
yeah,
Okay.
absolutely. Yeah, I mean they're fantastic. Those stands, they really are. I mean,
Yeah,
I've got them standing now, and
yeah,
I've had to put most of my figures on stands because they keep bloody falling over. But those Motu figures, I'm just so over the moon with those. I mean,
yeah,
some of those were from my childhood, and they were literally just about to get thrown out down the tip.
yeah,
It was only because the fact that my dad looked in the box and
yeah,
thought, "Oh, hello," you know, he knows
Yeah.
I do a channel and stuff like that. I collect, so he kept them
Yeah.
by, and
Brilliant.
I've scrubbed them up and I've like fixed them, put new bands in their legs and stuff like that. And people have kindly sourced me different bits and bobs for the ones that the bits that were missing. So
That's awesome.
those figure stands, if you can get hold of some, highly recommend it.
Yeah,
they're brilliant. Yeah, really good.
I'm definitely going to look into that. Yeah, that was a great video that you did, actually. Being able to find your childhood figures, that must have been such a thrill. I wish I could experience that myself, but
oh, seriously, honestly, for the longest time I've been saying my only regret is I can look around this room and I can look at all my toys and think, yeah, fantastic, reminds me of my childhood. But even the Star Wars figures, none of those stuff was mine from my childhood. But now I can just turn around and say, yeah, I've got those from my childhood. So I'm quite happy with that. So I don't have to worry about that anymore. So I'm guessing then you've got nothing left from your childhood and no toys of your childhood.
Zilch, absolutely nothing.
Oh wow, okay.
I still haven't forgiven my parents.
What about the wrestling figures? I mean, did they go as well?
They went eventually. Yeah, they.
Oh, okay.
I think maybe when we. I'm trying to think when that would have happened. Yeah, I mean, as I said, my parents moved so often, and after I moved out of, when I went to university and I moved out of home, I think my parents moved again, and it would have just got lost. They would have just got sold off in a garage sale. So absolutely nothing. And as I say, at the time, I didn't feel any remorse or I didn't hold my parents against any of that. I was just like, that's what happens. You sell off childhood toys and stuff. But now I'm like, oh God, why did that all happen? So I don't think I had, like, as a kid, we had a great upbringing, but I don't think we had we didn't have massive amounts of toys. We had a healthy amount. Like we were outdoor kids. We used to play outside in the yard and play cricket in the driveway, and toys were definitely one part of our childhood. But we did a lot of different things as well. But now being an adult collector, of course now I really wish my parents had held on to things. And I've got a daughter now, and she's sort of my daughter's 7 years, and she's sort of started getting to collecting and playing with toys. And in the back of my mind, I'm like, okay, as much as I can, the ones that she really treasures, I'm gonna see if I can hold on to those for her.
Absolutely, yeah, definitely.
So cool. She has those when she gets older. So, but yeah, again,
awesome
when you move, it's difficult.
yeah, absolutely. What gives you that toy collecting buzz?
Well, initially it was the nostalgia. It was again, just the memories. And again, for me, being in Japan, something to sort of remind me of back home, being in New Zealand, something from my culture, even though a lot of this is sort of American stuff. It's it's not really New Zealand culture, but it is part of my upbringing. That was the initial buzz. And then I did enjoy the thrill of the chase of finding the figures. On most of my figures that I've bought have actually been bought online.
Okay.
They are especially Western line figures are difficult to find in store. So I tend to buy most of my stuff online. So I can see how going to shops would be even more of a thrill, but it's just quite difficult for me. So even coming across things online, I still get a bit of a buzz, and grabbing it before anyone else does gives me a bit of a thrill, I guess. And then now that I'm in the YouTube community, the thrill is being able to share my collection with my friends online, talk about collections, picking up things, putting them, taking photos, putting them on Instagram, etc.
Yeah.
Being able to share, basically being able to share my collection with other people, and especially showing people things which may be, more easily found in Japan than other countries, which are slightly different.
Yeah.
I think it's given me quite a thrill. Like, I've collected a lot of the G.I. Joe carded figures with the different card backs, and a lot of people sort of haven't seen those before. So, those types of things, I think, all encompassing, give me a buzz, I guess. So there's a lot to it.
Yeah, go on, sorry.
It's given, the whole toy collecting thing has given me way more than I initially thought. Like, I had no idea, about a YouTube community. When I started making the videos, I didn't even have I never watched, I only thought YouTube was there for watching music videos and watching sports highlights. I never knew people used YouTube to create channels and to share their hobbies. I didn't even know it was a thing. So that has been a complete, something completely new that I had no idea about. So it's just been awesome, and nothing that I ever expected when I started, spending thousands of dollars a couple of years ago with employees.
So easily done, isn't it? It's so easily done.
Mate, so easy, yeah.
Well, we're coming to the top of the hour. I've got one last question for you.
Yep.
What does your collection mean to you?
It means a lot. It's my happy place. It's a place where I can come and, again, as I said before, I do love Japan, but at times it can feel a little bit too much for me. And it's a place where I can come and escape a little. It's escapism, and I can come and tinker around, play around with the displays, and it's just something which takes me to a happy place. And I'm not shy in saying I did go through a bit of a bad spell a couple of years ago. A few things happened in my personal life, and being stuck with the COVID situation in Japan. It was tough times, to be honest. So
I can imagine.
The toy collecting came at just the right time for me, and it my wife says it's sort of saved me, and I sometimes say, well, you're going a bit overboard there, but I wouldn't say it saved my life, but it definitely has put me in a much more positive frame of mind. It's made me much more, I guess, outgoing as well. It's made me more interactive with people. I've got good friends in New Zealand, but my friends in New Zealand aren't toy collectors. They think I've been hit over the head with a stupid stick. They're like, what's happened to you?
Oh wow!
You had no interest in this hobby, back in New Zealand. So it's just been great to do this and find a community and find a way to socialize with people. Online. I can do it from Japan. You can do it. It doesn't matter where you are. In any country. You can connect with people, and I think that's been, to be honest, that's been the biggest thing that I've really enjoyed is being part of the community, and just sharing with like-minded people. And I love listening to people's stories about their childhood. I mean, I love your series actually, Stu, about
thank you. Cheers, man.
Talking to collectors and listening to their childhoods and how they played with their toys when they grew up and what figures they collected. I love all of that. I could listen to that sort of stuff all day. So
thank you.
that's what it's all about for me. And I think you're doing a great job connecting with the community. And it's just great. I love it.
It's just like echoing what you say as well. It's just interesting. I mean, this whole community is not just in the UK. It's not just. It's worldwide.
Yeah.
And people like mock. Well, like they say things about like YouTube and this, that, and the other, and they say about the internet and blah blah blah. But it can get put to good use. It's about connecting with people, and that's what this community is doing. And I would never thought of like a couple of years ago or a year or so ago before I did my channel with like chatting to people from America, chatting to people from like New Zealand, Australia, Japan, Holland. Canada. Do you know what I mean? It's just absolutely crazy, and we've all got one thing in common, and that's a passion for collecting and a passion for toys. And it's all, so many people have got different stories and stuff like that. People collect differently, they display differently. We might collect the same things in some cases, but it's it's just a fantastic community, and I'm really glad to be part of it, and I'm loving doing this series, and loving talking to you like I have done with with all the other people that I've managed to chat to. So yeah, it's just absolutely awesome.
It's brilliant, mate. Yeah. It's great stuff. I think maybe people who aren't in the hobby or aren't in the community probably don't realize, what it is like. But and the other thing as well is the generosity. Like, I've just been blown away with people. Nothing that I ever expected. Like Matt from Keep On Collecting in Australia. Like, he sent me over a couple of care packages with figures, and I've sent him a few things as well. And the generosity in the community is just absolutely mind blowing, and it's very.
Absolutely.
A lot of people think toy collecting is a very, a selfish hobby, and I guess it is. But there is so much giving and so much generosity as well. Like, it's. There's a lot of back and forward, and people are helping each other out, filling in their collections, and
absolutely,
it's just fun. As you say, fun learning as well. Like, I love following channels where they collect figures or toy lines that I don't, and you're learning about those toy lines and educating myself, because as I said, I am a relatively new collector, and I haven't been in it for years like other people, and following some of those guys and learning the histories of some of the toy lines and stuff is it's fascinating for me. I love all of that stuff as well. So
absolutely,
it's hard to really pick out any negatives with the hobby. Obviously, the money is an issue, and you got to be a bit careful at times, and
you do.
You got to be careful about your wife not putting you in the dog box too much. But apart from that, it's all good stuff.
Yeah, no, awesome, Phil. That has come to the end of the chat, my friend. It's been absolutely fantastic chatting with you. Like I say, it's the first time we've actually properly chatted face to face. Where can people find you on social media? What social media platforms are you on?
Yep. Can I just say, this has just been a great chat, Stu, and the hour has
appreciate that. Thank you.
The hour's absolutely flown by.
It does fly by for sure.
But you can find me. I've got a YouTube channel. Treasures for Trigger. So you can check me out there. I've got toy videos. I've got a few videos of little wee trips around Japan as well. So if you want to see what Japan looks like, there's a couple of videos like that. I'm also on Instagram. Treasures for Trigger, 4 being the number 4, all one word basically. So I try and put up a few photos of my collection on Instagram as well. So basically YouTube and Instagram is where you'll see me, and hopefully see some people in Japan sometime in the future. Who knows?
Who knows? What I shall do, Phil, is I will put your social media links in the description below, so people can come and check out your channel and check out your Instagram page. Once again, thank you so much, my friend. It's been an absolute pleasure chatting to you. That is it for the chat. For all of those of you who are watching, just want to say thank you very much. Appreciate your support. Appreciate you watching. Thank you. Stay safe. Take care. And we shall see you in the next video. And bye for now.